movie nerds, and welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Now, that title is way too long, so I will be shortening it for the duration of this video. For anyone who is not familiar, this is the new sort of action war film from Guy Ritchie, starring Henry Cavill, Alan Richardson, Gary Elwes. There's a lot of people in this movie. Now, if you are interested in going to see Ungentlemanly Warfare and you are expecting to see something that is true to the events of what this movie is sort of based around, and for anyone who is not familiar, it is really just mostly a movie about a small group of kind of ragtag team that was put together to take down German U-boats, a group of German U-boats, during World War II. It's sort of Winston Churchill's secret mission that no one is supposed to know about. Now, again, like I was saying, if you are expecting this to be true to historical events, I don't think you are going to like this movie. This is probably nowhere even close to what actually happened. In fact, I know it's nowhere close to what actually went on, and I will kind of explain that a little bit. But for the most part, I would say Ungentlemanly Warfare is a very highly fictionalized version of a true event. So it kind of would be along the lines of Texas Chainsaw Massacre being, based on true events. It's that sort of a situation where what actually happened in real life was not really anything close to, but they were just inspired by. So the reality of it was that there was, in fact, a mission to do this that Winston Churchill was a part of, and Henry Cavill's character of Gus was a real person that led this mission. But the true tale of it was not this ragtag team of just random people that he knew about that went on this mission to blow up these German boats. In fact, they did have a group of soldiers. I think there were 55 in one company and potentially 200 men in another company, but I am not sure exactly how many of those went to do this particular mission, but it was definitely much more men than you see happening in this film. And their mission was never to blow up these boats. Their mission was to capture them. So when you see Henry Cavill and everybody shooting up all of these German soldiers and blowing up these boats, and it's very exciting, that's not really what happened. And I do understand kind of having to fictionalize it because the true story isn't necessarily something that would make a good film. I mean, the fact of the matter is, I think there are reports of this mission that say, they really didn't have that many German soldiers going against them because there weren't really that many men on the ships when the soldiers took them over, and that the Germans mistook these explosives that they were setting off to kind of cause a distraction as coming from the air, not coming from the water. So the Germans were shooting into the air while they were sailing these boats away. So much less fantastical and probably a lot less sort of action. Now, I will say, despite the incredibly high rating that this movie has on Rotten Tomatoes, this one was not necessarily a win for me. I think it is a pretty standard movie. I think it is enjoyable to watch. I will say I think that this is one that is easily skippable in theaters. I think you would get the same experience watching it on streaming at home. There was nothing really that amazing about it to me that made it stand out against any of the other sort of movies of its time. I will say, as far as Guy Ritchie's films go, I would put Ungentlemanly Warfare at the bottom. This one is the one of his that I liked the least. I think he actually did a better job with the Gentleman TV series than was done on this film. And that isn't to say that the film isn't good. I don't know. With Guy Ritchie films, I've really loved a lot of Guy Ritchie's movies. I've even loved, the ones that everyone else hated. I'm a very big fan of his King Arthur film with Charlie Hunnam. I very much enjoyed that. So, I'm a huge sort of Guy Ritchie fan in terms of the movies and stuff that he does. I enjoyed the Gentleman television series. This one was just sort of run of the mill. I think that, yes, it stands out as a Guy Ritchie film, but I don't think it stands out as one of the best films that he's done. And I will say, just as a personal thing, I don't know if it was mostly just me, sitting in the theater, there were a lot of sort of lines or scenarios and stuff that would come up in the film that a couple of people around me in the theater would laugh at these sort of one-liners or whatever, but I didn't necessarily get it. So it is possible that really maybe just the humor of the film didn't hit me quite the way that it seems to be hitting, other people. So that could be just like a personal preference that this one wasn't necessarily my cup of tea. And you guys know I'm not really huge into sort of war movies anyway, but because this one was sort of a fantastical version of it, I didn't really go into it with the same sort of mindset, I guess, as like going into something like Civil War, where it's going to be kind of gruesome and bloody. This one definitely had more of that kind of crazy, humorous elements to it, but the humor didn't necessarily always land for me. I think if you really just want to go and see a film and something that's really easy, where the storyline is incredibly easy to follow, like, this is a pretty standard sort of mission kind of film that has some really great action sequences. I do think that a lot of the action in the film is quite good. Then I think that you would really like this one. It just doesn't stand out to me when I look at it as like the whole of everything that Guy Ritchie has done. This one doesn't stand out as like, oh wow, that was incredible, I'd like to watch that again. I think it's more so one of Guy Ritchie's films where I'm like, okay, well, I've seen that and I'm okay to just not really ever watch that one again. Not my favorite, not terrible, but not my favorite. So yeah, those are really my thoughts on Ungentlemanly Warfare. I would love to know what you guys thought of this film if you have watched it. Subscribe if you want to join the Movie Nerd family, and I hope to see you in the next episode.